आज के लेक्चर में एथिक्स एंड वैल्यूज इन इंजीनियरिंग प्रोफेशन यूज करेंगे। ठीक है, यूट्यूब चैनल जय मां सरस्वती क्लासेस। ठीक है, आगे करते हैं। पहला क्वेश्चन देखते हैं। स्पिरिचुअलिटी इज प्रमोटेड इन द वर्क प्लेस बाई adhering to the following activity: verbally respect the individual as a human and recognize their values in all the discussion and action. Second, support cause outside the business. Do up unto others as you could have them do unto you. Realization of the self potential through meditative acts. Hence, 1 and 2 and 3 are correct statement. The normative sense of engineering ethics does not include the generative alternate course of action to the resolve the dilemma. Next question देखते हैं. Which one of the following characteristic feature distinguish cargo Galen's theory from Kahlberg's theory which regard to the moral development? Hence, which is the more more for cure? Which correct answer is the C. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देखते हैं. Which one of the following is not the skill needed in the workplace of the future for incentive thinking using information and communication technology in education? Responsibility. Statement 1. Increasingly employees have generally tend to accept engineers to process both hard skill and soft skill. Statement 2. Soft skill means the knowledge of software, which hence statement 1 is true but statement 2 is false. Which one of the following is not covered under the International Labor Organization Declaration on Fundamental Principle and Right at Work? Hence, the answer is the Global Compact on Migration. Which one of the following theorist, a philosopher, is not associated with the ethics? Hence, which is the John Locke. The engineers of suitable world EWS event for using the professor talent in the create a more sustainable world was founded in which is founded in 2002. Next question. Which one of the following is not recovered under the International Labour Organization Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Right at Work 1998, the Global Compact on Migration? Those who drive automobiles are familiar with blind spot and applying the term to organization and business areas. Dennis Morg draws an analog between business blind spot and those we experience when driving. Blind spot is one of the significant common impediments to responsibility. Which one of the following is not mentioned under blind spot? Illusion of invulnerability of group. Which one of the following does not come under business ethics? Avoid conflict. Coral Gilgan is associated with the ethics of care. Hodge of bootlegging refers to the provision law on unethical practice related to liquor. The famous statement, the weak can never forgive, forgiveness is the attribute of the strong, is given by which is the Mahatma Gandhi. Match the following. देखते हैं, ठीक है. The arti-utilitarian theory which is given by the J.S. Mill. Rule illustration theory. This theory is given by the Richard Brandt, and the duty ethics theory which is given by the Immanuel Kant, and the right theory which is John Locke. Hence, option B is correct. Which philosopher suggests wisdom, courage, temperance and justice as four cardinal virtues? Is Plato. Groupthink, a noteworthy features of the organizational setting within which engineers work and deliberate in groups, has been suggested by Eric Janis. Which of the following tests are suggested by philosopher Michael Davis that rely on our common sense molarity but also reflect some of the concept in moral theories or approaches. Correct answer is the harm test, publicity test, defensibility test, reversibility test, virtual test, professional test, colleague test, and organization test. Next question is the in a utilitarian approach require that a maximize well-being how should we go above determining well-being how should we go about the determine the criteria we should use seeking this maximization. One approach that has appeal from the engineering perspective CBA which hold that course of action that produce the greatest benefit of utility related to cost should be chosen. What is the full form what is the full form of the term of CBA which is the cost benefit analysis. Johnson B. Carden, present an engineer is either liable or responsible for damage of for even error. Society has decided through case in that when you hire an engineer, you hire the engineer normal error. That's however, if the engineers is shown if the errors is shown have been worse than a certain level of error, the engineer will label the level. The line between non-negligent and negligent error is which is called a standard of care. Consider the following: the philosopher W.D. Ross, who constructed list of basic duties of obligations, which is called prima facie duties. His list of prima facie duties are given below: duties resting in previous act, the duties of gratitude, duties and justice, the duties of beneficence, duties and of the self-improvement, and the duties to injury other unexceptional to the widely practiced, and 1, 2, 3 are the correct. What is nepotism? Which is the hiring friend to or relative and showing favoritism in work. Statement 1 and statement 2. Moral pluralist maintain that there are moral thoughts, but they do not form a body of coherent and consistent truth in the way that one finds in science to mathematics. Statement to moral truth are real but partial, hence option B is correct. Both statements are individually correct, but is not explanation of statement 1. The philosophical study of belief and knowledge is better known as epistemology. B is a correct answer. Arrange the following hierarchical order as the suggested by Carroll in the four-part model of the corporate social responsibility: economy, philanthropic, legal, ethical. Hence, philanthropy first one, and then ethical, and then legal, and फिर economic. ठीक है, next question देखते हैं. Which one of the following does not come under business ethics? Avoid conflict. Altruism is the professional ethics is correct answer is the a judgment of an action by consequence of that action. The basic difference between a professional and a committer is which is the a professional is clear in thinking and focused on the job while amateur amateur is confused and distracted from the job. Which among the following statements are considered on the basis of ARC Administrative Reform Commission 2007 headed by Varappa Molly, which is integrity and impartiality, commitment of public service and devotion to duty, exemplary behavior and open accountability, and all of the view that ethical norms are the connection that group develop by acceptable behavior and to which alternative exist called which is called ethical conservationism, which is the not the Moscow needs, which is a control. Which of the following philosophical principle is in ethics plays phase on the consequence of the action rather than the following rules. It's a utilitarianism principle. Who among the following have given the concept of categorical imperative, which is a Kant? Consider the following statement. Utilitarianism justify absence of socially consequence policy for few. Theory of justice believes in quality as in the principle, and both statements are correct. From Mahatma Gandhi, ethical development would be a bottom-up approach to development as non-ascending circus, pyramidal model of development, and Sarvodaya. Hence, option 1, 2, and 4 are only correct. A moral theory that seeks to create the most good for the most people is which is the utilitarianism, the general and abstract concept of right and wrong behavior culled from philosophy, theology, and professional societies are which is ethics. What is the scope of ethics? Meta-ethics, no, normative ethics, applied ethics, and all of the above. What are the most important method controlling the corruption? By in, incentivizing honest officer and punishing the corrupt. What is the meaning of narrative ethics, which is deal with that should be ideal norm? How do you understand the phase who will guard the guardians? Which is correct answer is the how to make ethical those authorities who have the task of making society ethical. What are the problem in using atheism as a public interest philosophy? It is a discretionary. You are head of a irrigation project and you go on a routine inspection. You find that most of the water that government was diverted toward the poor farmers is being redirected towards use of an influenced landlord in that areas of his personal consumption. That too on order to district administration. What could be your decision on the following stock merchants? So you will write an administration seek explanation regarding the same. What are the barriers to effective communication in the organization? Prejudice, stereotype, heresy, and all of the above. What are the necessary ethical principles of democracy? Public participation, accountability of politician towards citizen, accountability of public servant towards citizen, obligatory duty of citizen towards society. Hence, option is all statement is correct. Who is the philosopher king according to Plato, which is who is the altruistic? Why utilitarianism is better than justice? It is easy and effective. Which of the following roles could you play as a public servant while dealing with your family member, which is as a responsible son and member of family? You are the chairman of an interview board. You have chosen between two candidates. One was a brilliant academic profile but lack leadership skill. Another has good leadership skill but weak on academic. Hence, candidate with good leadership skill is it necessary to motivate and manage human resource. Principle of golden means as a highlighting by which is a Aristo. The concept of seven sins has been given by which is given by Gandhi. Theory of justice has been given by which is given John Rawls. Utilitarianism is based on the premises of which is a minimum comfort to maximum number. Which of the following is correct? The hedonism believes in seeking pleasure and comfort to oneself. In which of the following approaches the Kant's philosophy could fail? The deontological. What is not correct? Deontological approach focus on it. Technological approach focus on dimensions both A and B. Who has the given the famous statement it's difficult not to taste honey that it is tip of the one's tongues which is a cocktail there. What are the element of good governance which is the transparency, accountability, probity and all of the above. What is the crunch capitalism which is the development countries using globalization, trade and cooperate to exploit the resource and market in the developing countries. Who is the proponent of theory of justice, which is a John Rawls? Which of the following is not a characteristic narrative ethics? It is the concern with the meaning of term used ethics as a discipline. Plato's virtue can be explained as which is a wisdom, courage, self-control, and justice. Statement: an action can only be judged by its consequences called teleological ethics. Make a product appear more ethical that really is good greenwashing. Hence, both statements are correct. Statement 1: according to Karl Marx, our values are product of the economic system within which we live. An employee is most likely to behave ethically and legally when the consequence of act are subsequent. Hence, both statements are correct. Statement: according to utilitarianism, an action of the morally right, its result in the greatest amount of good or the greatest amount of people affected by the action. Statement: to morality defined as that what is right and what is wrong for an individual, for a community. Hence, both statements are correct. Statement 1: ethical theories are conduct that should be followed in order to have good ethical practice. Statement 2: ethical theories are rules and principles that determine right and wrong for any given situation. Hence, only statement 2 is correct. According to John Locke, ethics of right means the right to life, liberty, justice, and property. Hence, all of the above. Ethics is defined as science of the habitual conduct of people, science of rightness and wrongness of the conduct, science is morality, hence all of the above is correct. Statement: ethics evaluate the habit, voluntary action and character of person and investigate their rightness and wrongness. Statement: ethics is not concerned with the origin and development of contextualized psychology. Hence, both statements are correct. Statement 1: ethics is narrative science. It deals with human conduct together with the inner violation and their motive. Statement: ethics is not concerned with the conduct as a fact in space and time determined by and the antecedent event and determine a succeeding event, and both statements are correct. Ethics deals with the moral judgment consequently passed by man upon himself and others. Statement 2: ethics does not give a list of duties and virtues determined by the ultimate moral standard. Hence, only statement 1 is correct. Which statement is correct? Meta ethics, remarkably, from applied ethics and narrative ethics, in that it does not concern with determining what is right or wrong. Descriptive ethics, also known as comparative ethics, and both statement is correct. Which statement is correct? Duty ethics are mainly formulated by Immanuel Kant. In duty, which have duties, an important one of the which is not protect the right. And both statement is correct. What is the meaning of narrative ethics? Deals with what should be idea norm. Consider the following statement. Ethics involve philosophical activities such as careful conceptual analysis and reflection. Moral refers to standard of right conduct. Ethics is that right and what is wrong. Hence, 1, 2, 3. Match the following alternatives. Narrative inquiry based on fact, conceptual inquiry based on meaning, factual inquiry based in values. Hence, all of the above. Choose the correct explanation. Ethical egoism, the value that right action consists in producing one's own good. Ethical relativism, the view that right action is merely that the law and custom for society requires, and both 1 and 2 are correct. The success of money becoming the most silent indicator of happiness, development, love, and the affection is called, which is called which is called Sanskritization. Next, if you say that modernization is the value, even there are closing concept of modernization as an which is a narrative concept. In the context of principles of ethics, theory of utilitarianism, theory of belief in which is a maximum good for maximum number. Which among the following does not comes under narrative ethics? validity determination theory. Which among the following statement is a not general moral imperative given by the Association and Computing Machinery ACM, with respect to personal privacy? A group brought together from different functions at levels of the organization to consider way in which the organization activities could be improved is called process improvement team. Assertion and reasoning. According to Aristotle, the required habits for an effective involvement in rational activities called virtues. Reason. As Aristotle never expressed his views on virtue as good wisdom and judgment. Hence, A assertion is correct, but reason is false. Assertion. According to Milton Friedman, self-interested individual and corporation who care for their personal motives and beneficial society reason. It is interesting to understand that ethical egoism could justify the self-interest of people through very hence both statements are true, but not a correct explanation of assertion. Assertion. The ethical pluralism strictly enable a person to act according to the moral significance, and it also provide a considerable variation to individual in the application and interpretation of various moral issues in the engineering ethics region. Ethical relativism refer to the right and correct moral actions that are accepted by any law or custom, and this is directly in conjunction to ethical egoism that favor the self-interest, and the correct is true but reason is false. Exam point of view is important points. The principle of golden meaning indicate about avoid extremism and accept middle thinking. That ethical people that emphasis on maximize the well-being society of as a whole. Utilitarianism. According to Utilitarianism theory, engineering ethics and action is morally right if it results in the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people affected by the action. According to Immanuel Kant, moral laws are required and applied to all the rational being. Ethics of responsibility is moral and legal community to one's work and its consequence. According to J.S. Mill, decide your action based on consequence of our action. Based on Aristotle, humans should be spirit of inquiry through setting of global and human life. Concept of just state given by Plato. Mill claimed that one of the strongest objections to the utilitarianism is drawn from the idea of supererogation. Ethical theories are rules and principles that determine right and wrong of any given situation. A moral theory that seeks to create the most good for the most people is known as utilitarianism. The consequentialism teleological theory is its hold that consequences of one's conduct are the ultimate basis of any judgment about the rightness or wrongness of that product conduct. Plato's virtues is wisdom, courage, self-control, and justice. Aristotle claims that virtue is our power and so is wise. Aristotle views incompetence is happened when one does not know that one's action are wrong. Aristotle view the virtue are acquired through habit. According to Aristotle, happiness is activity of the soul in the accordance with virtue. Philosophy of Advaita Vedanta is seeking spiritual freedom through knowledge. A gray area with reference to ethical theories is where there is a confusion as the law will give the solution or the ethics. Two categorical imperatives in duty ethics are universally and large dignity, which ethical theory rests on the understanding of the categorical imperative deontology. Statement. Ethics involve the discipline of the symmetric inquiry into moral norms of standard of behavior and their underlying values and justification. Statement. To applied ethics looks into the way in which moral values can be applied to particular area in concern such as business. Hence, both statement is correct. Which of the following statement is not correct regarding human values? Which is the not correct statement is values are essentially objective while skills are subjective. Some argue that laws are instituted at least in the part to help establish a particular moral fabric in society, but the primary function of a law is solely to help uh, order society in that the institution, organization and citizenry can work together harmoniously regardless of any further moral aim of the law. Indeed, the highest courts have an occasion treated moral belief based on the consequence or religious faith as ground for making expectation in the application of laws. The statement is above if it's true strongly support which one of the following. The manner in which law are applied sometimes takes into account the belief of the people governed by those laws. Select inappropriate statement about the integrity. It is simply truthfulness of evidence of lying. Statement 1. Moral pluralist contains that there are moral truth but they do not form a body of coherent and consistent truth in the way that it find in science to math. Statement 2. Moral truth are real but partial. Hence correct statement is B. Both statements are correct, but it's not correct explanation of assertion. What are the type of moral judgment, which is the permissible, impermissible, obligatory, super category? How is the closeness or commonness of the attitude, behavior, trust, and performance within the organization designated cohesion? A situation where very high price are charged from customer for a limited period of time is known as, which is known as gouging. Consider the following statement regarding engineer are as responsible experiment. It includes the consequentious commitment to the life for moral values. It can accountable for the result of the project. It restrict free personal involvement in at step of the project or product development. It include constant awareness of the progress of the experiment and readiness is the monitor the side effect if any. Hence 1, 2 and 4th is the correct. Which one of the following is not included in the Nimbus basic human functional capability, being able to earn livelihood and life peacefully? The basic ethical people beneficial state that all our thoughts and action must be directed to ensure that other benefits from those thoughts and action. The characteristics of human resource are dash in nature, which is a heterogeneous. Which of the following should you mindful of when adopting your persuasive message to your audience, which is their spiritual perspective? If a person's special ability to recognize something is a result to that person experience that perhaps caring and attention rather than formal education and training, that ability is called dash rather than dash. Hence, which is correct answer is the A. Institution and expert opinion. Capacity to govern one's own behavior as the essence of being a person and a moral agent, and that make a person and end that is valuable in themselves is called an Adromis right to self-determination, and both statements is correct. Which is the basic principle of ethics in management? A holistic approach indicating unity between the divine individual self and the universe, immense potential energy and talent, the perfection as human being as the spiritual within his heart. Cooperation is powerful instrument of the teaching work and success in any enterprises involved collective work and all of the above. Which is the barrier to communication, which is the pressure of time filtering, psychological distance and all of the above. Which of these skills considered to be cornerstone of the four building block skill? Hence, which is the correct is a leadership capabilities. Consider the following statement: the presence of violence within the, especially between human society, shows that there is also a darker side to human nature. Peace is always fragile and its maintenance requires that continued engagement of all. Statement 1 and 2 are correct. Hedonism believes in which discipline, self-interest and pleasure as the justification of one's action. How do you best define the values? A relative concept which is set of preference for one thing over the other based on our belief and practice. What is the difference between attitude and aptitude? Aptitude is attitude is related to the character, and whereas the aptitude related to competence. Hence, C is sorry B is correct answer. ठीक है, next question देखते हैं. What is nepotism? Nepotism, which is a giving benefits and protenance to kin and kin. How do you differentiate between what is right and what is duty? What is moral and what is legal? Former her choice and later doesn't. Former is ethical, later is obligation, and so all of the above. Virtue of ethics increase the good habits, values, and characteristics of individual. Which is correct? Duty ethics talks about performance and one's duty is moral obligation. Imperfect duty is where people can exercise there will be hence personal bias can either hence both the above. If you are going for urgent work, you see there is an accident on the road, people are watching but no one is coming forward to help. There is also the fear of completed police and the judicial procedure that would follow. What you going to do? If you help, your work will be suffer. Hence the will arrange for the transport, take the victim to the hospital, give my details and inform the police. Which of the following does not refer to need associate with other? Need for control, need for affection, need for inclusion. Hence 1 and 2 are correct. Which of the following is characteristics of emphatic listening? Hence putting oneself in position of speaker, being evaluative, observing body language. Hence all of the above. Statement 1. Consequentialism focus on the outcome, not on moral principle. Consequentialism focus on the intrinsic goodness or value of an action. And the statement 1 is correct. Ethics for justice means retributive justice, procedural justice, and distributive justice. Hence, all of the above is correct. Statement 1. Ethics is synonymous to morality. Statement 2. Ethics is synonymous to conduct. Hence, only statement 1 is correct. Statement 1. A canon is defined as the fundamental belief that usually encompasses several rules. Statement 2. A canon is defined as a system of non-mandatory rules on personal conduct. Only statement 1 is correct. Statement 1. A rule is defined on the oath taken by an individual in a ceremony. Statement 2. A rule is defined as a guide for conduct and action in certain situations. The correct statement is the B. Only statement 2 is correct. Okay, next. Statement 1. A type of compensation that takes place when compensation extinguishes the two debts in their coherent amount even without the express agreement of the parties is called legal compensation. Statement 2. A type of compensation that takes place when there is a compensation by agreement of the parties as the case of mutual set-off of the account, which is both statements are correct. Consider the following statement. Ethics is a concern with the deal of the highest good. Logic is concerned with the idea of the truth. Aesthetic judgment refer to the idea of the beauty. Hence, all of the above statement is correct. Statement 1. Moral judgment are always accompanied by moral obligation and moral statement which do not accompany logical and aesthetic judgment. Statement 2. The feelings of approval, disapproval, competence, reverse, etc. are called moral competence and both are the correct. Which one of the following statement is correct? Hedonism believe or seek pleasure and comfort for oneself. Hedonism believe seeking pleasure and comfort for oneself. Next, which one of the following terms refer to a view and attitude towards work as determined by the intrinsic values and aspiratum and the experience of working which is reflected in thought, feelings, and behavior about work, which is the correct answer is the B. Work orientation. Principle of golden means belief that which is a balance between two extremes. What is the difference between attitude and aptitude? Which is a attitude is character and aptitude competence. Next question देखते हैं. What is a accountability? The correct answer is it is a backward looking responsibility. Virtue, ethics, increase of good habits, values, and character of individual. Which of the following is an example of the fraudulent, contractual, and misrepresentation? Is a party knowledgeably makes false statement to induce another party into the contract. Norms are which is a approved way of behavior. A system rewards and punishment in society is called which is called sanction. Consider the following making ethical judgment, the motive from which action is being, nature of the act, the consequence, and all of the above. Consider the following statement. First statement, an organization can function efficiently over its formal authority system exists. This was strengthened by the informal basis of power and influence, the bringing effectiveness, cooperation, and the supportive official depend on their senior range of knowledge, experience, and leadership ability. If one's own action or example directly or indirectly cause a change in the behavior or attitude of other person or group, it is called influencing, requiring compliance with instruction without being able to influence in entitlement to power wished in the one who instructions. Option 1, 2 and 4 is statement 1 and 2 and 4 is correct. Consider the following statement regarding definition of moral: being or acting in accordance with the standard and perception of goodness, rising from consequence or a sense of right or wrong, a consequently expressed perfect or general truth or maxima, the principle of conduct governing an individual or profession, standard of behavior. Hence, all of the above is correct statement. Happiness is associated with hope, optimism, mystery, and coping, and these representations are dynamic. Assertion: human rights for all cannot be realized comprehensively without right to development. Reason: right to development ensure the realization of human rights. Both statements are correct and correct. Assertion: the moral standard by which virtues such as truthfulness and the trustworthiness is maintained in is called honesty. Reason: honesty the yardstick for measuring the several moral qualities such as self-conduct, self-reliability, transparent behavior, and frank mindset. And both statements are true, are the correct explanation of a assertion. The courage act is often associated with discipline, character, and next question, next reason is the act of courage could infuse a positive thinking in the mind of people and enhance the power of tolerance. तो assertion गलत है और reasoning correct है, ठीक है. Then आपका D is correct. Assertion: the process of cooperation create a strong network of bonding by which social harmony and cultural tradition are fully protected. Reason: any type of movement in the interest of nation, community, or an organization could be achieved by the concept of cooperation. Hence, both statement is correct, and the R is the correct explanation of A. Next assertion reasoning देखते हैं. Assertion: the empathetic act establishes an estimate bridge of relationship between the sender and receiver of the proper perception of communication rights. Reason: by means of sympathy, an individual develop a clear understanding to appreciate the intention of others to their own views and moral angle. Hence, A is true and R is the false. Assertion and reasoning. The term self-confidence refers to the positive attitudes to face and execute anything with capabilities. Reason: self-confidence is identified as an important moral virtue virtue that strengthen the mental stability and willpower for the successful achievement of any task. Hence, both statement two but are is not correct explanation of A. Assertion and reasoning. Character, which forms the primary basis of one's personality and credibility, inconsistent by several human values such as integrity and unselfishness. Reason. The term character refer to the total presence of all good values and virtue of an individual. Hence, both statement is correct and R is the correct explanation of A. Assertion and reasoning. The independent attitude of possessing the skill and rational thinking about the ethical issue is called moral autonomy. Reason. Moral autonomy discourages the professional. It's incubated the basis of professional values such as honesty, equal respect for the colleague, and care of public safety. Hence, uh, assertion is true, but reason is false. अब एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट देख लेते हैं. वैल्यू एजुकेशन शुड बी यूनिवर्सल. इट्स मीन इट्स एप्लीकेबल टू वेरी इंडिविजुअल फॉर ऑल टाइम एंड स्पेस. ठीक है. सेल्फ ऑफ नॉलेज इज कीज मेंटल हेल्थ डिसीजन मेकिंग इन प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस एंड एथिकल प्रैक्टिस इन्वॉल्व ए सिमिलर strategy and process. Decision making is typically described as choosing among alternative. Consider the following objective of the study on the first and viewpoint based on facts, searching beyond obvious and alternative response to issue and being repetitive to creative solution, comprehending, accessing different views. Hence, all statement is correct. Whistling blowing is the organization setup of superior professional relationship and with management family relation. Hence, all the statement is correct. Statement 1. Engineers hold paramount the safety, health and welfare for public while performing their professional duty. Statement 2. Engineers shall continue their professional development throughout their careers. Hence, both statement 1 and 2 are correct, but statement 2 is not correct explanation of statement 1. Next question देखते हैं. For which of the following sector do not comprehensive safety and health status for regulating occupational safety and health at workplace exist at present in India, which is mining, factories, sports and construction. Consider the following statement regarding safety during demolition of multi-story building. For demolition need not proceed story by story. Second is the floor opening not used for material catch and should be enclosed by adequate guardrail. And before demolition start, all the lath and loose plaster shall be stripped off throughout the building. For adequate and well stripped material breaking should be provided for wall. And the correct answer is the 2, 3 and 4. Next, consider the following statement. The failure of many structure, and second is accident on major highways and effluent which pollute rivers, dangerous gas emission. They are attributed to improper design, not adverse to proper maintenance practice, lack of proper inspection and quality control during construction, corruption among several concerned individuals, lack of public concerns. Hence, correct answer is the 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. All is the correct attributes. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देखते हैं. What are the 3 stages of development of professional identity? Independent operator, team oriented, detailed, self-defining or integrated professional. The ethical skills are code of conduct, responsibility, efficiency, perseverance, punctualities. Ethical issues that can affect an engineer, professional and personal life are termed, which is termed microethics. What are the core qualities of professional partitional integrity, both themselves with others, the independence to be free of secondary interest with other parties, competence, discrimination, care, and communication. Hence, all the statement is correct. Which of the following are the attributes of professional? The work requires sophisticated skill, use of judgment, exercise of discrimination. Membership is a profession does not require extensive formal education as well as practical training. There are set standards for admission of profession and conduct for members. Significant public good result from practice of the profession. And one, third, and fourth statement is correct. One bench of ethical philosophy claims that it is possible to know right from wrong or good from bad is very clear and objective manner, which is called is cognitism. Consider the following statement regarding engineer ethics. It is the activity of understanding moral values. It resolves the moral issues and justifies moral judgment. It could refer to the set of specifically moral problems and issues related to engineers. And 1, 2, 3 statement is correct. Professionals who breach the duty of care are liable for injury. Their negotiable cause, the liability of commonly referred as to professional malpractice. Which one of the following is not a type of virtue for responsible professionalism, which is the self-realization virtue? Which one of the following is not Davis 8 moral test, which is a acceptability test? In the professional ethic, the degree of safety proposed by the attendant